Welcome back to Organist Launchpad, and in this part we're going to be talking about social media.
Yeah, social media is obviously it's key to be able to connect with the public. I mean, once you kind of have defined what you actually do, you need to kind of get out there and tell people what you do. Being enthusiastic about what you do and creates a lot of enthusiasm from other people as well. And we find this. So in terms of social media, I mean, where to start? There's so many different platforms which you can now go on. Yes. We obviously do a lot on our YouTube channel, but obviously with this kind of thing, when we're just kind of telling our day-to-day life, we tweet. That's the main thing, really.
Whereas a website's quite a fixed thing which is hard to update. Social media and all the different posts you can put out there are quite throwaway in one way. So they'll be put out and telling people information which is very current, but it's a very quick way of interacting with people and actually getting information out there. You might be doing a concert, say, or an event, but you can show a bit more behind the scenes, a little more informal, really. But the important thing is also keep it professional and relevant as well. What do you want people to see about you? Always remember, if you've got a career as an organist in this case, what do you want people to see? What would you want your boss to see? What would you want people booking you for concerts to see? And what would you want an audience to see? You might think it's really exciting to show people what you're having for breakfast, but you always have to question
sometimes I have a very interesting breakfast.
Exactly. Well, so when Tom shows his interesting breakfast, we always question, is it relevant? Will people be interested?
Yeah, don't be afraid to experiment with putting things on and seeing if that does attract, the right kind of attention. There's nothing wrong with that, but do try and make it relevant, but also very consistent. I mean, there's nothing worse than seeing someone's Twitter page when they haven't put anything on for a year or 6 months. And I think that's the main thing with us. We have kind of a little rule where we will tweet every 2 to 3 days and we don't leave it any longer than a week.
Yeah, so if you've got events you're doing, you're going to have more to tell people. It's this balance between creating interest from what you put on, but also then keeping people who are looking interested by making things to show them. So that can lead to trouble where you're having to try and create things to show people who are looking. So we have this very phrase we have between us of when people are looking, start dancing, in a way, is what people do, because when people are looking at what you're doing, you need to be doing something, and so make sure it's relevant to what you're going to be doing.
Yeah. As I've said, enthusiasm creates interest, and it's just a matter of just keeping that going, and people will keep watching and seeing what you're doing.
Yeah, so if you're doing a performance, you've got a great opportunity as an organist. One of the things you're going to be mentioning in this especially is that you're going to go to some amazing buildings, amazing cities, countries, and you're going to see some amazing instruments. And that's the great thing about organs. Every single one of them is different. So show people that when we put things online. So when we said we were coming here to Montreal to do this, we actually put a tweet out.
Well, we created a very special tweet.
We did. We went on a community post on YouTube and a tweet as well, showing us with our cases with a sign saying Montreal, dressed to come to Montreal, and it did really well.
Yeah, it did well. But we're not really so bothered with huge amounts of likes, and I think that's something not to be worried about. It is just basically making sure that you've got your image of where you are out there so people can see. You can see these. They say a lot now about impressions of how many people have seen your tweet or whatever the post is, and so you could have, let's say, 1,000 people who've watched, but only a couple of people have liked it. 1,000 people have watched. That's very, very good. Don't be so worried about these huge expectations of getting lots and lots of likes on things. It doesn't matter in that sense. The main thing is that if people look and if people search for you, they find that you're active doing something and you're enthusiastic about what you're doing.
Yeah, so as I've said, that when you're going to a place, you've got interesting things to show people. Things that are interesting for organists and your audience are very different to what are interesting for other people. So things like you might have a new pair of organ shoes. You can't imagine anything less interesting to some people, but to a community of people who like watching organs and what you're doing, they want to see this. Essentially, people are very inquisitive, also probably quite nosy as well, and they like to see behind the scenes things they wouldn't normally see, really.
Yeah, so for your kind of brand as an artist, it's just a great way of just sharing what you're doing at the present time.
Yeah, but don't bombard people as well. The idea that you should keep it regular, really, but as soon as you bombard people, they will tend to switch off because it becomes wallpaper. So you need interesting things, different things all the time, and things which are completely relevant, as we said.
Yeah, variety is key. Well, I hope that was interesting. And now we're going to move on to our next subject, which is video and recording.